All right, hi Aspen. We hope you are having fun in Arizona and enjoying your time there. Kids miss you like crazy, and every day I think Marley asks me when you're coming back, so just know. All right, I figured it would be easier to make a few videos for you as far as math goes because we're starting a new chapter. So I'm going to try something here where I use our document camera to record what I'm doing on the paper. So hopefully that helps. So this video is for the very first lesson that we did, which was just looking for patterns when we are doing division with decimals and whole numbers and decimals and decimals. So it's kind of like when, you know, in fourth grade we would look at patterns, like if we were doing like 6 times 7 equals 42, so then 60 times 7 equals 420. So we were looking at the patterns of how you would put a 0 onto the answer if you knew 6 times 7. And this year we've been looking at patterns like if I had 3.8 times 10 to the third, the pattern is that we are going to bounce the decimal this way 3 times, and it's going to go this way because the numbers get bigger when we multiply. So that was doing a 1, 2, 3. So our answer would have been like that. So it's just finding those patterns. And so that's what today is going to be about, but with division. So you should have your new volume right there, volume 2 edition of your colorful textbook. And so I'm going to be looking at page 4. And now I'm going to try and shift to document camera. So hang on a minute. Okay, there we go. So if you turn to page 4, there's a table up here that has some missing spots. And we're going to basically just kind of use this to look at some patterns, but I'm actually going to transfer down here. So we know we're going to be doing division. So 37 and 5/10 divided by 1 is still going to be 37 and 5/10 because anything divided by 1 is still itself. Now in this one, you'll notice we still have 37 and 5/10, but now we're going to divide it by 10. You can see in the answer that the decimal point has shifted over one place to the left. It's bounced to the left because our number is going to get smaller. So you can see it was between the 7 and the 5. Now it's between the 3 and the 7. Because a 10 has 1 0, it will just do the 1 bounce. So because it does that bounce, you can think of how the digits then are all shifting this way, which is what this box was saying. But just think of it as bouncing your decimal point over to the right. No, to the left, excuse me. All right, now look at this pattern. So back to 37 and 5/10 divided by 100. Now I have 2 zeros, and you can see the decimal point has shifted over 2 spots. It's now in front of the 3 in this answer. Okay? So that's pretty basic. Just count the number of zeros and move the decimal point over however many spots. Okay. Now, in this example, 37 and 5/10 divided by 1 is obviously still 37 and 5/10. 37 and 5/10 divided by 1/10, you can see the number actually gets bigger. So when you are dividing a decimal by a decimal, you would move the decimal point 1 spot this way, and that makes 375. You'll see later when we actually start doing long division, when we're dividing by a decimal, we have to move the decimal over to make it a whole number. So if I have to move this over 1 spot to make it just 1, I would move this over 1 spot, which is how you get that. Again, it's just about patterns. All right, so back to 37 and 5/10. This time I'm going to divide it by 1/100th. So you can see there's 2 spots behind the decimal point. So that means I'm going to bounce it 2 spots this way, making 3,750. So basically, when you're dividing by a power of 10, a whole number, the decimal point is going to move that way. And if you're dividing by a decimal, it will move that way. Okay, so if you look over now on page 5, here's some practice problems that we can do, and I will grab a piece of paper to kind of demonstrate how that would work. Where'd my paper go? There it is. Okay, so in this one where I have 64.2 divided by 100. So I have a whole number with 2 zeros. And that means I'm going to go this way with my decimal point. So 1, 2, now it lives there. So it's going to equal 0.642. Okay. The next one, 64.2 divided by 10. There's only 1 zero, so that means I will just bounce one time, making 6.42. 64.2 divided by 1, we don't even have to think about it because anything divided by 1 just stays itself. Okay. Now I'm shifting. I'm going to do 64.2 divided by 0.1. Okay. Because they're both decimals, now I'm going to start shifting this way. So this would have to bounce over one time because there's one spot behind the decimal point. So there's one spot there. So this would equal 642. And then finally, 64.2 divided by 0.01. This time I have 2 spots behind the decimal point. So I'm going to bounce it 2 spots this way, which would give me 6420. So 6,420. So it's just about the patterns, like I said. Hopefully that makes sense. There's another little practice here if you wanted to try that. Down here, even though it's just one problem, it's more of the same stuff. So like 91.4 divided by 0.1, because it's a decimal by a decimal, we're going to bounce this one this way, and this one would go this way. So my answer is 914. Here, this one is 50 5/10 divided by 0.01. So decimal by decimal. So the decimal, I would have to bounce it twice. There's 2 spots behind it, so I need to bounce this number twice. Fill that with a 0. So it equals 5,050. So it's just those kinds of patterns that you're going to do. What I would like for you to do then, and I'll have this in your mom's email, is in your practice book, you will do pages 77 and 78, just practicing those patterns. I will send a picture of the answer key as well so that you can check your work and make sure you're doing it correctly. Okay, thanks.